Haig.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I want to begin perhaps where Moana Maki's left off and by supporting the comments that both she and her colleague Phil Twyford made about the broader context in which this bill is being advanced of the situation of housing and of the building industry in New Zealand. The recent Government Task Force Home and Housed report found that there's a shortage of 70,000 homes in New Zealand and that 8,500 to 20,000 New Zealand households have extreme housing issues. That's extraordinary, sir. The government's solution to that is to make vague comments about working with the community sector more, and that's simply not enough. We need action and we need it now. The government has cut money for upgrading and acquiring state houses from $120 million to $18 million in this year's budget, and are actively going backwards in supporting vulnerable Kiwis who have the right, we would say, to be guaranteed a roof over their head. That's occurring at a time when there are currently over 10,000 families on the state house waiting list. The Green Party's suggested some solutions to that would address those needs for housing and also address the plight of the building industry. And our Mind the Gap package and our Green New Deal package have proposed a comprehensive state house building program to increase the stock of state houses by 6,000 homes over 3 years. It creates 28,000 jobs. And we've also proposed a further $200 million to be spent in community housing to build a further 500 homes over that period. So that's the broader context there. I also want to make a comment that builds on something that Chris Auchenwald said, because he said that he thought that the debate on this bill would happen in the Select Committee. And so I think it's evident that that's the only place that it can happen, because even though this is a complex and technical bill, and I'm sure we would all have benefited from government members taking some time to explain more about their proposals in speeches in this debate, and I think the New Zealand public actually has a democratic expectation for the government to do that in a first reading. The first reading debate is not only about satisfying the needs of the government itself, it's actually about satisfying the needs of the New Zealand public to know more about the bill that's being proposed so that they are in a better position to actually make informed comments, informed submissions to the Select Committee process. And I think it's unfortunate, sir, that the government members have chosen to take cursory calls on this bill, because it robs the public, it robs those important stakeholders of the opportunity to know more about the bill and therefore to actually make the best submissions that they possibly can do to the Select Committee process. So the aims of the bill, such as making builders more accountable and simplifying the building process, seem superficially good on the one hand, and on the other hand they also sound like code for more deregulation and more of the risk of the kind of debacle that earlier this evening in this House we've been speaking about, the catastrophe that has befallen so many New Zealand households in the Leaky Homes disaster. So it's once again one of those issues on which there is a debate between regulation and deregulation and striking the correct balance. And it's worth repeating, I think, sir, that the conclusion of the Hun report about leaky homes, because in 2002 the Hun report found that the deregulation of the building industry that the national government of the 1990s undertook represented a major systemic breakdown across the whole industry. This cannot, sir, be allowed to happen again. We cannot compromise environmental, safety and quality standards in order to fast-track building developments and to satisfy the National Party's obsession with free market economics. And in the long run, that approach will lead to problems such as the Leaky Homes debacle that we are still dealing with the repercussions of today. We realise, sir, that the building industry and the systems that we have around that industry are not perfect, and certainly we do welcome some of the provisions in this bill. There's room for improvement, and we agree with objectives such as the aim of holding people to account for their work. And indeed, part of the problem with the leaky buildings fiasco was that loss of the accountability chain, the loss of accountability mechanisms. But it's important, sir, to remember that all of that happened in the context of deregulation. I want to raise another problem that we hope that this bill will address, and that's a problem faced by people who are wanting to build different or eco-friendly style houses and buildings, because very often councils seem ill-equipped to deal with those kinds of applications, and fall back on the tried and true, the systems that they know, and that's anathema to the kind of innovation that we do need to overhaul the style of New Zealand buildings in order to face some of the challenges that we face in this century. On the whole, the 2004 reforms to the building code have been an improvement, but still, sir, there's a way to go. So, with all that said, the Green Party does want to say we do have an open mind. We're keen to hear the submissions from the public and from stakeholders on this bill on how the Building Act can be improved, and we're also keen to hear from the experts about how we can safeguard the environmental safety and quality standards of the building industry, and to see if there is scope to make the processes easier to comply with. It's fair to say, sir, that we are sceptical about National's record on building regulation and more particularly deregulation, but we want to hear what the arguments are. So with that said, sir, we will support this bill at first reading.